straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. No one in this room is responsible for slavery. But each and every single one of us bears responsibility for writing the next chapter of history. Each and every single one of us decides what happens next. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
Over the weekend, she got a call from President Biden congratulating her on a speech that has catapulted her to national prominence.
A reminder for you of our top stories. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, beating Marine Le Pen and becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
The dangerous winter storm Rocky is expected to pummel the Midwest throughout the day, with meteorologists predicting the blizzard will hit Kevin Hodges of Joliet, Illinois, the hardest, given the way his year's been going.
Yeah, we're stocking up on everything. I think school's going to be canceled. We're just glad we're not Kevin right now.
Joining us now is Jordan Blake in Chicago. Hello, Jordan. Just how crippling will this storm be for Kevin?
Well, we've already seen a lot of damage. A motorist in Kansas trapped in their cars on the freeway. That's nothing compared to the emotional damage Hodges can expect. Having to deal with a sick cat, frustrating new hours at work, and a confusing breakup all in the past 6 months.
You know, we're getting reports that he recently loaned $600 to a friend who has no intention of paying him back and slammed his finger in a car door last month. Does the National Weather Service have any advice for Kevin today?
Not much you can do. The sky is really vulnerable right now. Authorities are recommending that he just stay indoors and think about his mistakes.
That sounds like good advice. You know, he looks like a real sad piece of shit. Stay warm out there, Jordan.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back. It is Free Talk Live. We are a live radio program, nationally syndicated, broadcast on the internet, some satellites, so we're worldwide.
Intergalactic radio station.
Well, if we include Mark Edge, that is accurate. But a show where you can call in and talk about whatever is on your mind. If you want to call, the telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, we have myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass. Joining me,
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
And for those of you who have not met Zephin, welcome.
Thank you.
And yes, that's his real name.
It is, yes. There's not very many folks that I know whose names start with a Z, so you're one of the few.
Yeah, and I actually haven't met another Zephin before, so I've been lucky in that regard.
We're just going to call him Steve Weird.
If you were in a band, would you be Led Zeppelin?
I guess I would by default.
Featuring Aria Speedwagon?
Yeah, Aria Speedwagon would be the opener for Led Zeppelin, because, you know. Captain's log, start 804-242-2022. It is Sunday. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is something that came up last night, actually, at the end of the show. I talked about an article from the Free Thought Project where there apparently are more than 20. I had a list of 23, but more than 20 just in the past, at least this year, the past couple of months. 20 food processing or distribution plants have burned, like severely, like burned down to the ground, or one of them had a plane crash into it, and one of them had a boiler explode. And so the question was, is this common?
Well, if it's more than 2 planes, it's definitely the Saudis.
Well, and I heard, and I wasn't able to find it, but I heard that another plane crashed into another food plant or processing place. So
mystery solved. We know who done it. Time to attack Iraq again.
I don't know about you guys. I've never heard of multiple food processing plants or distribution centers like starting on fire, much less burning down, much less exploding, but also within, 8 weeks or something, I guess is the claim. So I did some brief research before commenting on it last night, and it turns out that fires at this type of a business aren't uncommon, but the overwhelming majority of them, when they find out the root cause, arson.
Sounds right.
So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Have you heard of this? Is it on your radar? Do you know anything more than I do?
I had heard of it before. I didn't know that there were so many of them sequentially. The only thing that can come to my mind and what it might be is, I mean, what's happening right now, right? You've got rampant inflation. You've got international conflict. You have a so-called virus that's spreading all over the world. I think that what they're trying to do is essentially make it so that people are at their weakest point, so that it's the easiest for the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, whoever it is, to take over and to essentially remake the world in their image, where we own nothing and love it. That's essentially what they're trying to do.
You and your conspiracy theories.
Well, and that's just the
conspiracy realism is what I ascribe to.
When I was growing up, I'm about to be 50 this year. So when I was growing up, it seemed to me that the different countries that existed in the world were sort of competing with each other. And the older I've gotten, the more it seems that these countries that I once upon a time was under the impression were sort of competing with each other are cooperating with each other. That is to say that the term government, if you go from country to country to country, particularly westernized countries, you don't see much of a difference in how people live and what's available to them in the marketplaces and on a daily basis. And so it seems to me that, yes, there is cooperation in that these entities known as governments want to control people. And so it leads me to the conclusion that slavery was never really abolished. It was just sort of spread out. And we know that from farming that cattle won't produce as much if they're confined in tight quarters, if they'll produce anything at all, like milk and that kind of a thing. So how do farmers get around that? Well, they sort of let them be free range. They let them roam around in the fields a bit, which is kind of what has happened to humans, in my opinion.
Or the VR goggles on the cows.
I was thinking that. Yep.
Have you seen that?
I have not. Does that work?
Apparently it does. Cows who wear VR goggles and pretend they're out in pasture produce more milk.
And that's what they're trying to do with, Facebook's
with Meta or whatever?
Meta. Yep.
So virtual reality?
To your point, I said conspiracy theory, but I'm close to where you're at.
Yeah.
It's a playbook. It's the playbook.
Well, and it has historical precedent, too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Whenever there were essentially government controls on the amount of grain that was being made, they would essentially force burn a lot of them to control the price. And so it's not like this is without precedent. This is just maybe just
method.
this is just them doing it with less transparency, which, I mean, government tends to thrive with not a lot of transparency.
Talked about China a bunch over the last couple of weeks with the Shanghai protest.
Right.
And all of a sudden news comes out from China that, oh no, now we're finding COVID in the food. Like in the food supply.
Oh my gosh.
So they're disarmed, they're already starving, and they're going to be reducing their food supply as well.
Yep.
So when you see it here, right, it's not the same thing, right? It's hard to put that past us. But like, oh no, another meat processing plant burned down. Well, you got to get your soy and your lentils and eat your plant-based diet.
So I was able to come up with a different list than the one that I had last night, and these are the 10 most recent ones. Starting in February of this year, February 16th, Louis Dreyfus reports a fire at a soy processing plant, Claypool, Indiana. February 22nd, 7 injured in an explosion at Shearer's food plant in Hermiston, Oregon. March 19th, fire, 50,000 pounds of food destroyed after fire ripped through Maricopa, Arizona food pantry. March 19th, fire destroys Walmart distribution center, Plainfield, Indiana. March 24th, a massive potato processing plant fire burns in Belfast, Maine. March 31st, a warehouse fire at a large fresh onion packaging facility Rio Fresh in South Texas. April 11th, this one's local to us, crews battled fire for 16 hours at East Conway Beef and Pork in New Hampshire. April 13th, plane crashes into Idaho potato and food processing plant. April 14th, Taylor Farms packaging building in Salinas, California, deemed a total loss. I'm assuming because of fire. I don't have the actual cause in front of me. And then April 19th, fire destroyed Azure Standard headquarters in Oregon, the largest independent food distributor in the U.S. I'm familiar with that one, having lived on the West Coast. They are the largest, I don't know what term you'd use, the non-GMO,
organic,
or organic meat distributor. So you basically go online and you go, hey, I want to buy some of your meats. And then they have this network of people who will drop them off nearby. So they'll park in a parking lot of a grocery store within, 15 miles of where you live. And you got to drive over there and pick up your order whenever they happen to be there. So those are just the 10 most recent ones that I discovered. And so I've never even heard of one food processing plant starting on fire and burning down, much less 10 in the last couple of months. And there's been, my last count was 23 since last year.
Yeah, I mean, and in general, if you want to control the populace, what's the most effective way? Generally, it's control of the food supply.
Yeah.
Got to disarm them first.
I'm a big movie fan. I don't know if you're aware of this. I love science fiction, but I also love the latest Mad Max movie that came out. And there's a scene in there where there's the guy who controls all the water, and then he's standing up, on we'll call it Water Mountain or whatever. He's looking down at all the peons, and they're just holding their dishes out, waiting for him to bestow upon them the privilege of water, right? And this is kind of the scene that I have in my head when we talk about these things.
That was part of the plot to Rango too. The little kids.
You're right.
603-283-6160. Does all of these processing plants concern you? Are you concerned about food shortages? More Free Talk Live is coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back. It is Free Talk Live. The telephone number here, should you want to join in and talk about whatever's on your mind, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
We were sort of wrapping up, I guess, this bit about the food processing or distribution plants that are apparently many of them are burning, as many as 23, possibly even 24. I can't confirm the 24th one since late last year, December or something like that.
If it's a coincidence, okay, but it's still going to have the same effect as if it was done on purpose.
Yeah, if you have not prepped. And prep can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Some people hear preppers and they think of what was the old History Channel show, Extreme Preppers or whatever that was.
Underground bunker filled with food.
When I lived in the Seattle, Washington area, I had, I will call it prep, right? I had both camping gear for should I need to flee to the hills or something like that, but I also had some shelter-in-place gear because I lived in an earthquake zone, right? So it's smart to keep like a 3-day supply of food and water and, just whatever you need to survive for 3 days. Make sure you have that available. And then if you want to, prepare for a longer term event. So if you've had any reservations about preparing for such a thing, you might revisit those thoughts with this in mind, because you're right. Regardless as to whether or not there's some kind of conspiracy going on or if it's sheer coincidence, the effects are going to be the same. Folks have been predicting food shortages for quite some time, and the advent of what they call just-in-time distribution makes the ecosystem even more fragile to events like this.
But cheaper on average. Go ahead.
What do you mean cheaper on average?
Because the alternative to just-in-time inventory system is to warehouse everything.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to pay to warehouse everything.
Yeah.
And then stock that goes bad in the warehouse, guess what? That cost gets absorbed into the price you're paying at retail.
Yeah.
So there are other hosts on the show that complained about the just-in-time inventory system. And I went, well, if it works like 99% of the time and saves you money during that time, right, maybe it's not all that bad. And maybe, the worst case scenario, that 1% chance of something bad happening, you don't have to revolve your whole ecosystem around that with the warehousing and the overages and the waste that goes along with that. So I'm a fan of just in time, even though it's not perfect for
Sure.
prepper situation.
Briefly on the prepper thing, I generally like to spin it on the person that's saying, oh, you believe in preparing for bad situations, you must be crazy or paranoid. I think it's a lot more crazy and paranoid to put yourself in a situation in which if something bad does happen, you're essentially completely screwed.
Yeah.
Well, and so when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in religious families and that kind of a thing, and they did put me into the Boy Scouts. And what's their motto?
Be prepared.
Be prepared. And so it's like, what, you hate the Boy Scout? Right? I like to turn it on. Do you hate the Boy Scouts?
Right.
Because their motto is be prepared.
Right.
Right. And in fact, I keep one of the Boy Scout handbooks in my camping gear.
Smart.
Right. Because it's got all the stuff in it about like, oh, don't eat that leaf, but eat that leaf, or that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that might come in handy.
And if there's any entity that is, I guess you could say a prepper, it's just you have no further place to look than the U.S. government. They're the biggest prepping agency in the world, bar none. And if I'm not going to follow the government's lead on many things, but the two things that they're really good on is killing people and prepping, really.
They do stockpile ammo. We know that.
Well, and that's part of it, right? The prepper mentality has to be a lifestyle choice. Because if you're going to have that much food, again, much like the warehousing, instead of just in time, you're going to have to store it.
Right.
Right. Which means you have to be diligent about rotating that stock out.
Right.
And then eating prep food.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of the fresher stuff that you could get at the grocery store today.
Right.
And then, but you have to be diligent about that. Rotate your food out. You're always eating prep food all the time.
You also
you have to have the storage capacity to do it.
You also have the people that they're like, oh, I'm a prepper, and basically all they have is like a couple weeks worth of food and like and 30 or 40,000 rounds of ammunition, and they're like a couple 100 pounds overweight, and they've never gardened a day before in their lives, and you have to like take into account those other things too. If you've never gardened before, even if you have a small backyard, just plant a couple seeds in the ground. I did it. I planted some pinto beans, and I figured out a lot of trial and error with it. And even if you're not growing these giant fields or whatever in your backyard, that's fine. Just getting a little bit of that experience under your belt is definitely very, very important, especially as time goes on and we continue to see the elites basically try to clamp down on our throats.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll say, like, some people are just, maybe they're an apartment dweller or they just hate dirt or whatever, right? So some people are going to be averse to make sure you develop some sort of skill. Or some other thing that you can barter in a situation, whether it's carpentry skills, whether it's, brewing, distilling, that type of a thing.
I'm going to learn to be a trapper.
Figuring out how to dry goods, right? Long-term storage. People will need that.
I had a friend who went into engineering because essentially he's a prepper, and he figured that long-term that would be a very marketable skill to have.
What's funny about when I watch like extreme preppers or stuff like that, when I see that kind of stuff, I watch it and it's sensationalized, obviously, because that otherwise it wouldn't be good television, or people wouldn't watch it. I guess good is subjective, but when I see stuff like that and I see what they're doing, I just go, that's what my grandparents did.
Right.
That's just how they lived, right? They had, a root cellar. They would can, everything that they garden that they couldn't use right away. When holidays or birthdays, stuff like that came around, they would give that kind of a thing. Like, oh, here's some jams that I saved for you for your birthday. I know you like the raspberry.
Yeah, you were weird if you didn't know how to do that kind of stuff. If you weren't at least a little bit self-sufficient.
But now we have supermarkets and pasteurization.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do all that stuff. You just go to the market, grab what you need for the day, for the week, whatever.
The idea is to, for whatever it is that you can't do or don't do, have something available that you can do or barter for the things that you need.
Absolutely.
So there are people who are stocking up on all sorts of things around the planet, around the globe, and I could think of tobacco, for example.
Alcohol, cigarettes, and ammo.
That'll be a good one.
Yep.
Yep.
So, whatever it is that you're into, that you're knowledgeable about, or that you can make a hobby out of, that would be a skill that you would want to harvest.
Bathtub moonshine.
Well, I've had some of that, and it is dangerous, let me tell you. 603-283-6160. How prepared are you for a food shortage? Are you seeing the shelves empty where you live? Give us a call and let us know. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term in the Élysée Palace. According to initial projections, he beat far-right candidate Marine Le Pen 58% to 42%. Our correspondent Ross Cullen watched Macron's address to crowds at the Eiffel Tower.
He wanted to underline his green message as well, his message of support for those voters who didn't vote for him in the first round or in the second round, saying that he would focus on battling the climate emergency. He would also focus on the young. He was surrounded by young supporters of his party En Marche as he gave his celebratory election-winning speech on a big stage in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Macron's win is being welcomed by many European leaders who feared Le Pen might destabilise EU and NATO unity. The National Rally leader, who also lost to Macron in 2017, conceded in front of her supporters in Paris, but told them the result is still a victory for her party. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. Sergio Olmos is in the Ukrainian capital with the latest.
We just had air raid sirens not too long ago as the United States Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Secretary of State visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ongoing aid and military equipment to Ukrainian armed forces. This comes as President Joe Biden announced an $800 million package to Ukraine on Thursday.
President Zelensky says he hopes to welcome his US counterpart Joe Biden to Ukraine when security allows. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is heading to Moscow this week to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. From Moscow, Stuart Smith reports.
The Orthodox Easter weekend passed without a ceasefire despite the UN chief's attempt to arrange one. Now he's embarking on a round of meetings, first to Turkey to meet President Erdogan, and then on Tuesday to Russia for a working lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before meeting with the Russian president himself. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken Guterres' phone calls or had any contact with him since the UN's top diplomat said Russia's so-called special military operation violated the UN Charter. A UN spokesperson says Guterres will discuss urgent steps to establish peace in Ukraine and what can be done for civilians trying to leave besieged areas and how to help UN aid get in. He'll then see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Should you wish to join us, we'll get to your calls momentarily. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
And we have a special caller. Let's go right away to Nikki, who is our normally a Sunday host here on Free Talk Live, calling from California. Nikki, you're on Free Talk Live.
What are you doing in California?
Hey guys, yeah, that's
how dare you,
right?
I don't want to speak for the rest of the crew, but we miss you.
Oh, I miss you guys too, and I miss being on the show.
Well, you'll be back sometime, right? You're not going to stay in California?
Oh no.
All right.
I
Call
am
off the
going
rescue
to be
mission.
Back, like 4 weeks.
They took off one vegan and replaced you with another.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay,
Yeah.
It took me a second to figure out what you were saying.
Yeah.
And Zephin, aren't you from California?
Indeed, I am. Unfortunately.
It was not a good trade.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So it appears we kind of switched places here.
Yeah, indeed. But I'm a pure-blooded Granite Stater now. My pronouns are officially live, free, or die. So.
That's awesome.
I do want to talk about my pronoun, but not while we have Nikki on. We'll talk about that after Nikki has said what she came to say. Nikki, you wanted to say something very specific, didn't you? What is it?
Yeah, so I wanted to share the experience I've had with California thus far, because this is my first time being here. Before I left, a lot of my friends in the Liberty community had some, very serious concerns with me coming here.
Hey, real quick, Nikki, are you on speakerphone?
Headphones in. Do you want me to?
Yeah, you just.
How's this? Is this better?
That's a little better. I was hoping you could pick up the phone, but that's fine.
Well, I am now. I'm holding the phone.
Oh, there we go. That's much better. Go ahead.
Service thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I came out here to work at a birth center, so I'm more here for work stuff, which is why I'm out here for 2 months. But there were some things that really surprised me about California.
In a good way or a bad way?
Both.
Okay.
So first, is a good way. The family I'm staying with is actually really, really cool and relatively liberty-minded, which was very refreshing.
Yeah.
And most of the people I've met here, I was expecting to meet mostly, the stereotypical California people, hyper-liberal LA County people.
Mm-hmm. I'd say way too much. Valley girls. like.
Yeah. But to my surprise, most people here appear to be kind of liberty-minded. I would say conservatives that call themselves libertarian but aren't quite yet at the philosophical libertarian level. But I've been pleasantly surprised that most of the encounters I have had with people have been positive.
Now, New Hampshire is a very small state by comparison to the rest of the states. New England is full of small states. California is a very large state. Are you in Northern Cal, Southern Cal?
No, I'm in LA County, so I'm in Southern California.
Even more surprising that those people haven't bounced to Texas already.
Yeah, because I know Northern California kind of resembles, I don't know, Oregon and Idaho a little bit.
That's where I'm from.
Mountainous, and it's not full of cities and that kind of a thing. There's farmland and all that kind of stuff. So, Nikki?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I heard some clicking there. So
that's the CIA patching in, or the FBI.
Oh, okay.
Probably. Most likely.
I moved to New Hampshire in June of last year, and this is the longest I've ever lived outside of California. And I agree with you, Nikki. There are quite a few people, honestly, there that are very live and let live. You do as you want. Generally, the leftist or authoritarian or statist people in any geographical location, but even California, they tend to be the minority, but it's what the minority does when they feel like they're empowered to do so that you really see changes in in culture and in politics and in legislation. And so I think that the political left and the authoritarians in California just have such a stranglehold on all of the institutions there, and that's what really warps people's view of it. The average day-to-day Californians are just like the average day-to-day people in Mexico or Russia or even New Hampshire. They're just normal people trying to get by. So that doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, and that's definitely what it seems like. And, I've brought up some of my serious concerns about California with some of the new friends I've made out here. And, so for example, like not having a constitutional carry is
or standard capacity magazines.
Right, yeah.
Okay, one of the things I found out that was extremely shocking to me is they have a list of guns here, like the approved guns list that you're allowed to have.
Yeah.
And some of the guns that didn't make that list don't even make sense.
Yeah.
And some of the guns that aren't on that list are what the police there buy for their own personal carry on the job.
Yeah, that sounds like a double standard to me, but, what do I know? And then the other thing that surprised me was the sales tax. They almost have an 8% sales tax.
Oh, no,
here.
yeah, it's terrible. Yeah.
I was, and how I found this out was I was buying a battery pack, like a little battery charger, right? At Walmart, and it was $41 and some change. So I go up to buy it, and then it ends up being $45. And typically I'm not the type of person to complain about a few bucks, but I just mentioned it to the cashier. And her response was, oh, yeah, the taxes. And I was like, yeah, but it's like $5 more.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, the taxes. And I was
It's like the prepared food tax here, though.
Well, but now you really feel those memes about, it's $40, but $48 after theft.
Yeah.
Well, it's the culture, right? I mean, in New Hampshire, we're a very, very fiscally conservative people here. Basically, the average New Hampshire resident is going like line by line and double checking what the New Hampshire government is doing. Meanwhile, there was a passenger rail boondoggle project that they were trying to do that was apportioned for, I believe, about $35 billion. And over the course of 12 years, they charged $100 billion for it. And I was telling my mom this, and she's like...
In California, right?
Right, yeah. And she was like, what? I didn't even know that they started and they were already $100 billion in. And so it's just not a culture of, keeping up to what the government finances do. So they can charge as much income tax as they want, as much sales tax as they want. And if you own any property there, you know how bad the property taxes are. Everyone complains about the New Hampshire ones, but I feel like I died and went to heaven moving here.
On the property tax?
Yes, on the property tax.
Okay.
And that's not even including the fact that I don't have to pay anything in sales tax or anything in income tax. So it's really just a matter of different cultures. Like we were saying, day-to-day people tend to have a common experience, but as you can tell there, that cashier was just very quick to just shrug it off. I mean, that's how it is.
Yeah, and I think the being so hyper-vigilant of what the government in the state is doing is kind of unique to New Hampshire because I don't know of very many places where, we've really proven this with the Free State Project of how much stuff is actually getting done.
Yep.
As far as, like law and legislation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as we continue to get more and more like-minded people here, there's so many people in California that I know still that continue to fight there, and they're very principled and libertarian, but you just got to get over to New Hampshire, man.
Nikki, do you want to hang on? Do you have more to say?
Yeah, sure.
All right, stand by. We'll bring you back. 603-283-6160 is the number if you'd like to join us. More with Nikki Sunshine and the rest of the Sunday Night Crew coming up here on Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his label dominated the charts, he'd bring a dozen real people into the Hitsville, USA studios and audition songs. And he'd ask, if you were down to your last dollar, would you spend it on this record or would you buy a sandwich? Today, attention span seems like an oxymoron. For tips on cutting through the clutter, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
And we are back. It's nice to see you're back.
I am back. See my back?
If you turn around, I can see your back. Oh, there. Bitcoin.com is on your back. Wow. Well,
this is my uniform shirt. It was just tossed to me one day in the studio.
You know, we don't have
Mark
any
said, here.
like real attire requirements here on Free Talk Live. There's not like a uniform requirement. Generally, folks will wear something they're into, like Bitcoin, for example. Or what are you wearing? What do you got?
So
America.
Still got to speak into the microphone.
I was just at the 250th anniversary commemoration of the Pine Tree Riot.
Oh,
earlier.
we should talk more about that.
Yep.
But let's
Hang
continue
up on
on.
Nikki. Let's talk.
Let's continue on with Nikki instead of hanging up on her like Richie Rich wanted to. Nikki, you still with us?
Don't hang up on me.
I wouldn't have let him. Don't worry.
I haven't been on the show
white
for
knight.
4 weeks. And you guys are already trying to hang up on me.
It seems like a
You
year
know it
has
is,
gone
isn't
by.
it? I know, it feels like I'm in this weird stage where it feels like I've been here for an eternity, but it also feels like I just got I can't believe that I've already been here for a month. It feels like so strange.
It's the California time warp.
Yeah, that's how I felt living there, especially when I was leading up to wanting to move. It was like, I'm never leaving this place. It's never ending.
You're like, I can't believe I've been here for like 25 years
Well,
already.
it's the Hotel California. You could check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Yeah, and you know what? I totally get why people live here. It's beautiful. It's warm. You got the coast, the beaches. But
it's California.
There's just something. Yeah, exactly. And it's really made me appreciate my home. It's really made me appreciate the Northeast and New Hampshire specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be visiting a family in August, and my wife's looking forward to it. I'm quite frankly dreading it. And I have a feeling that when I'm actually there and when I realize, I'm disarmed, I'm having to pay these 8%. You mentioning that gave me some real PTSD.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, seriously. And it'll really give me an appreciation of being out here. So I'm sorry that you're having to go through that.
What other observations have you made while you're there, Nikki?
Everything's brown because I'm in the desert, which is, I'm used to, it just makes New Hampshire seem so luscious. We have so much grass and the mountains are covered in trees. In the winter, obviously most of the leaves fall, but right before that you have the beautiful autumn colors. And then even after the leaves fall, pretty shortly after, you get some snow, so you have that the glistening, sparkling snow, like the fresh snow on the mountains. Here, all of the mountains are naked. They're just brown.
Well, that's from the wildfires.
Don't forget our nearly 1,000 lakes that we have in the state.
In California?
No, in New Hampshire.
There's 1,000 lakes.
Nearly 1,000 lakes, yeah.
I thought that was Minnesota.
No, Minnesota.
That's like their motto, land of 1,000 lakes.
Minnesota has a lot more than that.
It does, but
Yeah.
their motto or their
Yeah.
state slogan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, you're in the desert. You're in California. I know you're there on sort of a mission, self-improvement, stuff that you want to do, for, we'll call it career stuff. Have you had a chance to relax? I know that in the California desert area, folks put on what are known as desert parties. And that is to say, like a band will get together and, they'll get a generator and they'll invite a bunch of people out to the middle of frickin' nowhere and fire up the generator and all their band equipment and, bring a keg out, that kind of thing. Have you had any desert parties?
No, but that sounds awesome. But I will tell you what, I have picked up a new little hobby while I've been out here. And that is line dancing.
Wow.
Yeah, which I totally didn't expect to pick up while I was in California. But it was funny, the very first night that I got here, the woman that I'm staying with here brought me to her favorite local country western bar. And at first I was like, this is going to be fun. I'm not really into country music that much. But she said there'd be dancing, and I love to dance. Any kind of dancing, I'm down. And it was so much fun to the point where I might open a country bar in New Hampshire.
Will you play both kinds of music, country and western?
Oh yeah, for sure. Nice, healthy mix.
I went to a country bar once with my half black friend, and we didn't stay there very long. He's like, Rich, is this really what white people do at the bar? I don't know, man. I don't go to the country bar either, but this was the one that was open and you wanted to go out. So here we are. So yeah, we bolted out of there real quick.
Anything else, Nikki?
Definitely, yeah.
Go ahead.
What was that?
Oh, I was just saying, anything else?
This part where you get dropped if you don't say something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that's it then. Well, thanks for having me on. I missed you guys.
All right.
I will try to call in next Sunday as well.
Yes, feel free to continue to report on the state of or lack of freedom in California as it compares to New Hampshire, and update us on how you're doing as well. We'll keep the seat warm for you. Zephyr is here tonight. We've had Steve Classic filling in for you, and while they're both doing a fine job, they're no Nikki Sunshine.
Oh, I appreciate that, Captain.
Hey, thanks
you
for the
guys
call.
have a great rest of your show.
Peace. Nikki Sunshine, everybody.
Yay!
All right, so I had mentioned earlier, this is pretty big news for me.
Captain's figured out his pronouns.
Because, like, I've just ignored the whole pronoun thing, right? And, like, I don't even care. Apparently, there are some companies now, if you go to work for them, that they require you to put pronouns, your preferred pronouns, in, like, your email auto-signature if you work for them and that kind of a thing. And I'm just like, that's just such BS. I would never want to work for a company that had that as a policy. And so I've just largely ignored the whole thing. But then I looked up, like, the definition of pronoun, and I was like, oh, well, I can get creative with this. And so I thought about it for a while.
As that whole pronoun community has.
I thought about it for a while, and it took me a minute to come up with what I feel is my preferred pronoun. Now, singular. I only have one.
Okay.
It's not pronouns. If you want to make it plural, you just add an S, I guess, at the end of it. But I first wanted to point out what the definition of pronoun is. This is just from, I think it's from dictionary.com. A word that can function by itself as a noun phrase and that refers to either the participants in the discourse, e.g. I, you, or to someone or something mentioned elsewhere in the discourse, e.g. she, it, or this.
Which is why I just say proper nouns, and then you avoid this whole pronoun catastrophe.
Right. And this is not an amateur noun. You know, it's not a semi-pronoun, right? They're not in, like, the minor leagues or anything. This is a proper pronoun.
This is the American nouns, not the Canadian nouns, the European nouns.
But also, because of the creativity, I decided that I was going to use an abbreviation of what is, it could be one word or two words, depending on how you look at it. And it's, in its non-abbreviated form, is a word I cannot say on radio.
Ooh.
However, in its abbreviated form, I can totally say it on radio.
How is that even a thing?
Right? So I know that's a big lead up to what it is, but here we are. Drum roll, please. My preferred pronoun is mofo.
All right.
M-O-F-O. That's M as in Michael, O, F as in Frank, O. Mofo.
Okay.
Right? Because, like, you can use it in a sentence, you know? It's like, well, the captain was doing a thing, and then mofo screwed it up, right? That totally makes sense. It works as a pronoun.
Okay.
What do you think?
Would you feel comfortable with having the put in front of it on occasion if people
mofo?
thought
If it
thought
makes-
it helped the flow of the sentence
If
work?
it makes grammatical sense, far out, solid, and right on, man.
All
I think
right.
that's why
Mofo
there's usually-
approves.
I think that's why there's normally two pronouns. You got to pick the other one because, like, he, him, or she, her, right? Those pronouns.
My pronoun is also non-gender specific.
Okay.
True.
I get it, but what I'm saying is those pronouns work in different parts of the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And does mofo work all the way?
I don't know. Give me an example of a sentence, and then we'll put mofo in it, see if it works.
Mofo hit the ball instead of he hit the ball, or she was talking to mofo instead of she was talking to him. Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound like it did.
I mean, to me, those sound
Okay.
perfectly acceptable sentences.
All right.
Right? I mean, it could almost be
Mofo, please.
a name, but, like, it's also a pronoun. It can function as a noun, right? Noun, person, place, or thing, right? So, mofo's over there.
We're getting to a place in society where that will be a name soon.
Have you seen mofo? 603-283-6160. This mofo will be here for more Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is coming up.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term in the Élysée Palace. According to initial projections, he beat far-right candidate Marine Le Pen 58% to 42%. Our correspondent Ross Cullen watched Macron's address to crowds at the Eiffel Tower.
He wanted to underline his green message as well, his message of support for those voters who didn't vote for him in the first round or in the second round, saying that he would focus on battling the climate emergency. He would also focus on the young. He was surrounded by young supporters of his party En Marche as he gave his celebratory election-winning speech on a big stage in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Macron's win is being welcomed by many European leaders who feared Le Pen might destabilise EU and NATO unity. The National Rally leader, who also lost to Macron in 2017, conceded in front of her supporters in Paris, but told them the result is still a victory for her party. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. Sergio Olmos is in the Ukrainian capital with the latest.
We just had air raid sirens not too long ago as the United States Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Secretary of State visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ongoing aid and military equipment to Ukrainian armed forces. This comes as President Joe Biden announced an $800 million package to Ukraine on Thursday.
President Zelensky says he hopes to welcome his US counterpart Joe Biden to Ukraine when security allows. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is heading to Moscow this week to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. From Moscow, Stuart Smith reports.
The Orthodox Easter weekend passed without a ceasefire despite the UN chief's attempt to arrange one. Now he's embarking on a round of meetings, first to Turkey to meet President Erdogan, and then on Tuesday to Russia for a working lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before meeting with the Russian president himself. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken Guterres' phone calls or had any contact with him since the UN's top diplomat said Russia's so-called special military operation violated the UN Charter. A UN spokesperson says says Guterres will discuss urgent steps to establish peace in Ukraine and what can be done for civilians trying to leave besieged areas, and how to help UN aid get in. He'll then see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the fury of a Democratic Party state lawmaker in Michigan who is refusing to tolerate the casual manner in which Republicans now often accuse their opponents of being pedophiles. One of Mallory McMorrow's Republican opponents in the state last week sent supporters a fundraising email accusing her of grooming children simply because she opposes efforts to restrict the ability of children to be taught about racism, sexism and sexuality in school. So last week in the Michigan State Assembly, Representative McMorrow let rip.
I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. No one in this room is responsible for slavery. But each and every single one of us bears responsibility for writing the next chapter of history. Each and every single one of us decides what happens next. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
Over the weekend, she got a call from President Biden congratulating her on a speech that has catapulted her to national prominence.
A reminder for you of our top stories. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, beating Marine Le Pen and becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
For over 8 years, Gary Lightman has been the chief executive officer and guiding force behind tech company MediaMerge Incorporated. Lightman spoke to reporters this week about working his way up from his humble beginnings as a son of the previous CEO.
If you would have told me 10 years ago that I would someday be the CEO of my dad's company, I would have said, absolutely not. I mean, it feels like just yesterday that I started off as a senior executive at this company, and now I'm in charge of the place.
Lightman told reporters that he credits his continued success in business to a number of crucial moments in his career, including getting hired by his father's retirement, and a few lucky breaks in between.
I'm not going to lie to you, it was a lot of work. I was here for nearly 8 hours every day. Someone clearly saw my efforts and took notice. You know, a lot of young people ask for my advice, and I always say the same thing. Work hard, and it will lead to bigger and better things. That's what I tell my kids.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And that's how I derail a conversation.
But are we still gone?
And we're back.
Oh, we are back. Okay. I needed that confirmation that we were indeed back.
We are back.
Thank you. It is Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering what sort of nonsense you might be listening to. The telephone number here, if you'd like to join us and tell us whether we're being serious or nonsensical or talk about really whatever's on your mind. The telephone number, 603-283-6160. We've got a call on hold right now. The phones are otherwise open. So 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
So if you missed it, in the previous segment, I announced my preferred pronoun as mofo.
Singular pronoun.
Singular pronoun. Mofo. Preferred pronoun is mofo. I thought about this for a good long time. It took me
all of 15 minutes while falling asleep last night.
Maybe as much as 20 minutes to... No, I had looked up the definition of pronoun because I keep bumping into it, right? Because it's this whole... It's trendy now to have pronouns. And I've just been ignoring it because I'm like, whatever, it'll go away. And then I thought, well, maybe I could much as I do with titles. I like to make fun of titles, which is why the Lord, Dr., Reverend, Captain, Kick-Ass, Buckshot, Esquire, if you will, is a thing that comes out of my mouth on a regular basis.
I want to know where the Buckshot Esquire came from. That seemed new.
It surprised me that you didn't do this sooner because names are kind of your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, art takes time, man. Patience, right? You gotta
true.
You gotta let it simmer and stew.
Well, I mean, and given your rule, shouldn't somebody have given you your pronoun? Like, because that was your rule with a lot of your other names and titles.
I can say for a fact, multiple people in my life have referred to me as mofo, and not even necessarily, sometimes in the way I'm saying it, the abbreviated way, but definitely in the not abbreviated way as well.
Just walk into a room. Have you seen that mofo? Oh, yeah, Kevin's over there. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So let's go to your calls and thoughts, because that's what we do here on Free Talk Live. We have Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. Now, are you back with a full frontal assault, or are you back with your back?
I'm back in black.
Hit the sack?
It's been so long. I'm glad to be back.
Okay.
Hit the sack, Jack. All right. Now, as far as your mofo thing, without mofos, there would be no bros or hoes. So we need mofos.
Valid point. Yes, bros and hoes are the result of mofos.
Yes. Now, as far as Minnesota goes, their thing on the license plate is a land of 10,000 lakes.
10,000, not 1,000. Thank you.
Yeah, but there's been an ancient pissing match between Michigan and Minnesota and who's got the most lakes. And what it comes down to is, where does a farm pond become a lake? You know what I'm saying?
When the government
is a
decrees
lake
it to
a
be
mile
so.
and a half long by a half mile wide, or how many cubic acres or whatever?
I don't know the answer. When does a pond become a lake?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you knew.
And that's why the pissing match continues.
All right, hey Major, we're gonna have to let you go. I'm pretty sure you can't say the P word there.
No, you can't.
It's one of the 7 Carlin words that the FCC frowns upon, and sadly, to me it seems completely innocuous. But the FCC deems otherwise. So feel free to call again tomorrow.
But the ears get perked up in the radio studio when we hear it.
Yeah, well, good thing we talked about it before, because there's a T word too that
yes,
that I think is even more innocuous than the P word.
And Texas Institute of Technology and Science.
Yes, that
one. It's funny too, because there's a bank that's I don't want to call it popular. That's around many places in New Hampshire, called TD Bank. And if you say it quickly, it sounds different than what I just said. Right?
And Elon Musk made that one tweet saying that if he got the company, he would remove the W and make it
in Twitter.
Yes. Make it no longer Twitter.
So would we be allowed to say that on there, the name of a company?
Oh, it's a brand name at that point.
Yeah. It would be the name of a company at that point. So.
I mean, when the Funky Noodle, formerly known as Pho Keen Great,
right?
We have said that many times in air, but being very deliberate in our delivery
and very slow
of said vernacular. Yes. Every now and again, we'd have to, hey, slow down when you say that, kind of a thing. But yeah, we are a radio program for those of you listening. That means we are broadcast on actual radio, and we must, sadly, abide by the FCC. They are our daddy, and we don't want to get the beat down.
But I get it. We knew what he was saying. We knew what he meant.
Yeah.
Didn't seem all that offensive.
Yeah. So 603-283-6160. 10,000 lakes. I was off by a factor of 10.
Yep.
I knew Minnesota was known for their number of lakes. I just didn't recall the actual number. So my apologies to any Minnesotans out there.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
To me, growing up in Wisconsin, there's not a lot of difference between the Illinois, the Wisconsin, the Iowa, the Minnesota. That's all kind of the same accent to me.
And it's almost Canadian.
Kind of, except there's no boot. It's not a boot.
Okay.
It's about.
Okay.
Right? Like, it's specifically pronounced in a non-Canadian way to, like, differentiate them. But my favorite Wisconsinisms are Oh, yeah, don't you know Der Hey? Like Der Hey, DER space HEY.
Yep.
Don't ask. It's just like a way to end your statements, you know? Richie Rich had a particularly bad episode of Free Talk Live, Der Hey.
Oh.
Wow.
And it's just, it doesn't really have a meaning. It's just a way to like, it's almost like CB radio talk when you're like, and blah, 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 over, right? It's almost like that, where it's like, I pass the turn to speak to you, you know? So Der Hey is one of those things. And then don't you know? Oh, yeah, don't you know?
That one I've heard before.
Yeah, but it's like pronounced DONCHA.
Yeah.
Don't ya?
That seems like a Canadian thing, though, too.
That's what I'm saying. It's so close.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there's also, I'll spell them for you because this is how they're pronounced. There's NOLMP, nope. And then there's YALMP, yomp. And it's yes and no, right? Like, hey, did you see the game the other day? Yomp. You know?
Oh, okay.
Do you think that guy should have been kicked out? Nope.
Californians have this thing where essentially the last word that they say is the one that they mean. So essentially, if you're asking me a question like, "Oh, did you go to the movie?" You would say, "Yeah, no."
Yeah, no. I've been using yeah, no a lot recently because somebody pointed out that it's completely useless and they don't like it. Now, I kind of agree, but because I've heard it, now it just comes out.
I'll get aggressive with it.
You could also add addendums to it. You could say, yeah, no, totally, or yeah, no, for sure. And, you could just keep adding and adding, and,
I get aggressive with that. Like, pick one.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
You can't say both.
But I'm well traveled around the United States, so I pick up different lingo from wherever it is that I've been. Southernisms, right?
Those are fun. I love y'all.
My favorite isn't y'all, but it's
all y'all.
All y'all. Like, are y'all going to the game or are all y'all going to the game? Right? And it's like a totally different subset of the people that you're talking about, right?
I still love those Jeff Foxworthy bits.
Oh, you might be a redneck and, Mom and M, right? Mom and M went down to the store.
Cheat yet? Yaunt to?
Cheat yet? Yeah.
People from the South, though, think that they own y'all, because when I tweet y'all, I have a lot of Southern followers that are like, hey, that's not your word. You're culturally appropriating us or whatever.
What, really?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I have definitely I still say it.
So do
but I say it in a non-Southern accent, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, are y'all, hey, are y'all going,
I know, y'all, yeah.
I can do that. I can talk like I'm from Alabama, right? Get all nasally, right? Wouldn't be prudent, right? Sound like Ross Perot.
He was from Texas. It's Texas billionaire.
Well, whatever. Okay. Yeah, he's still nasally.
Texas, Alabama.
It's a lot better than you guys, which is what Californians use for some.
Well, because that's
Midwest,
gendered.
You guys is Midwest as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so 603-283-6160. Coming up, we will talk about how democracies spy on their citizens. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
When you call a government bureaucracy, more often than not, the person who you talk to will not know the answer to your question, but they'll tell you they think they know who the person is that has the answer, and they will pass the buck to that other person, and if they happen to pick up the phone, they'll usually pass on the buck, or you'll leave a voicemail and never hear back from anybody.
Right. I mean, I wasn't being rude with the PSA at all. The third person I talked to, she was getting pretty hot under the collar. It's like, what are you being so angry for? I'm just asking regular questions any person would.
Well, she's probably upset that she had to pick up her phone and talk to one of the little peons like you.
She's probably annoyed at her underlings who actually gave you her phone number and let you get through to her.
Yeah, that's probably the case. She just wants to play solitaire, and you interrupted her game, or she just wants to surf on the internet, and you just ruined her day.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
That's my line.
What is it?
And we're back.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
All right.
You feel better?
I do.
Okay, great. 603.
Plus, you said it off microphone. So.
Well, I was mouthing it to you to make sure that you got to say it, but then you were like, "That's my line." So, 603-283-6160 is the telephone number here. Free Talk Live. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Zephin,
and Richie Rich.
All right. So this comes from NewYorker.com.
So you know it's quality journalism.
The headline is How Democracies Spy on Their Citizens, the inside story of the world's most notorious commercial spyware and the big tech companies waging war against it. This is from April 18th. The Parliament of Catalonia, the autonomous region in Spain, sits on the edge of Barcelona's old city in the remains of a fortified citadel constructed by King Philip V. That's probably the fifth. To monitor... Roman numerals, right? I'm not Roman. What do I know?
Oh, okay.
Right.
You're the titles guy. Come on.
Yeah. I wonder if I should put like an I.
At the first.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna skip a bunch of this because it's just really lead up to.
That's what I do with New York articles.
Yeah. Something about something, blah, blah, blah. In 2017, as Catalonia prepared for a referendum on independence, Spanish police arrested at least 12 separatist politicians. On the day of the referendum, which received the support of 90% of voters despite low turnout, police raids of polling stations injured hundreds of civilians.
Boo.
Leaders of the independence movement, some of whom live in exile across Europe, now meet in private and communicate through encrypted messaging platforms. One afternoon last month, Jordi Soler, a pro-independence member of the European Parliament, met a digital security researcher, Elias Campo, in one of the Catalan Parliament's ornate chambers. Soler, who's 45 and wore a loose-fitting suit, handed over his cell phone, a silver iPhone 8 Plus. He'd been getting suspicious texts and wanted to have the device analyzed. Campo, a soft-spoken 38-year-old with tousled dark hair, was born and raised in Catalonia and supports independence.
It's really painting a picture in my mind.
Yeah. He spent years working for WhatsApp and Telegram in San Francisco, but recently moved home. I feel, in a way, it's kind of duty, Campo told me. He now works as a fellow at the Citizens Lab, a research group based at the University of Toronto that focuses on high-tech human rights abuses. Campo collected records of Soler's phone activity, including crashes it had experienced, then ran specialized software to search for spyware designed to operate invisibly. As they waited, Campo looked through the phone for evidence of attacks that take varied forms. Some arrive through WhatsApp or as an SMS message that seem to come from known contacts. Some require a click on a link, and others operate with no action from the user.
Those are the most insidious ones. There was one that did that where it took over your phone just by you receiving the text message.
I had one of these recently. I got a text from a girl that I used to know in the Seattle area. I haven't heard from her in 5 years or something like that. And it just said, hi. That's all it said. And, I know this girl well enough to, if she were trying to say hello to me, she would say far more than just hi, right? So I said hi back. And then it turned into a thing, and I knew it wasn't her, and I was like, block, delete, right? Got rid of all of that. So something like this has happened to me recently. Campo identified an apparent notification from the Spanish government's Social Security Agency, which used the same format as links to malware that the Citizen Lab had found on other phones. With this message, we have the proof that at some point you were attacked, Campo explained. Soon, Soler's phone vibrated. This phone tested positive, the screen said. Campo told Soler there's 2 confirmed infections from June of 2020. In those days, your device was infected. They took control of it and were on it probably for some hours, downloading, listening, and recording.
So now you know, children, never put down your cell phone. Otherwise, it might get taken over by the government. You got to look at that thing 24/7.
I don't think that's a suggestion you want to make to young people.
Okay.
I detect a hint of sarcasm, but I'm not really sure. It's Richie Rich we're talking about. Soler's phone had been infected with a Pegasus virus, or with Pegasus, a spyware technology designed by NSO Group, an Israeli firm which can extract the contents of a phone.
Looking at you, Zephan.
Yes, it's me, the Jew, that's controlling the world.
Well, I mean, at least you cop to it.
The first admission you'll ever get.
Hey, I'm honest.
So it can extract the contents of a phone, giving access to its text, photographs. It can activate its camera or microphone to provide real-time surveillance, exposing, say, confidential meetings. Pegasus is useful for law enforcement seeking criminals or for authoritarians looking to quash dissent. Soler had been hacked in the weeks before he joined the European Parliament, replacing a colleague who had been imprisoned for pro-independence activities. There's been a clear political and judicial persecution of people and elected representatives, Soler told me, by using these dirty things, these dirty methodologies. In Catalonia, more than 60 phones owned by Catalan politicians, lawyers, and activists in Spain and across Europe have been targeted using Pegasus. This is the largest forensically documented cluster of such attacks and infections on record. Among the victims are 3 members of the European Parliament, including Soler. Catalan politicians believe that the likely perpetrators of the hacking campaign are Spanish officials, and the Citizens Lab analysis suggests that the Spanish government had used Pegasus. A former NSO employee confirmed that the company has an account in Spain. Government agencies, of course, did not respond to requests for comment. The results of the Citizens Lab investigation are being disclosed for the first time in this article. I spoke with more than 40 of the targeted individuals, and the conversations revealed an atmosphere of paranoia and mistrust. Soleil said that
placed if they're confirmed having been hacked.
Definitely. Soleil said that kind of surveillance in a democratic country and democratic states, I mean, it's unbelievable.
This article hasn't really provided a lot of context in regards to the Catalonian plight in general. So just for the listeners who are unaware, there is a subgroup of people that reside within Spain called the Catalonians. They speak their own language. They have their own unique culture and history. They're their own people, essentially. And they live close to the Barcelona area, and obviously if you know anything about Spain, that gives Spain a lot of its tourism revenue, and so they recently voted to become independent, and given the fact that Spain likes that tourism money, they've bashed heads in and have done what governments do best, which is oppress their people.
603-283-6160. Coming up, we'll talk more about how governments are using commercial spyware and how the industry has grown. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is next.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term in the Élysée Palace. According to initial projections, he beat far-right candidate Marine Le Pen 58% to 42%. Our correspondent Ross Cullen watched Macron's address to crowds at the Eiffel Tower.
He wanted to underline his green message as well, his message of support for those voters who didn't vote for him in the first round or in the second round, saying that he would focus on battling the climate emergency. He would also focus on the young. He was surrounded by young supporters of his party En Marche as he gave his celebratory election-winning speech on a big stage in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Macron's win is being welcomed by many European leaders who feared Le Pen might destabilise EU and NATO unity. The National Rally leader, who also lost to Macron in 2017, conceded in front of her supporters in Paris, but told them the result is still a victory for her party. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. Sergio Olmos is in the Ukrainian capital with the latest.
We just had air raid sirens not too long ago as the United States Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Secretary of State visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ongoing aid and military equipment to Ukrainian armed forces. This comes as President Joe Biden announced an $800 million package to Ukraine on Thursday.
President Zelensky says he hopes to welcome his US counterpart Joe Biden to Ukraine when security allows. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is heading to Moscow this week to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. From Moscow, Stuart Smith reports.
The Orthodox Easter weekend passed without a ceasefire despite the UN chief's attempt to arrange one. Now he's embarking on a round of meetings, first to Turkey to meet President Erdogan, and then on Tuesday to Russia for a working lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before meeting with the Russian president himself. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken Guterres' phone calls or had any contact with him since the UN's top diplomat said Russia's so-called special military operation violated the UN Charter. A UN spokesperson says Guterres will discuss urgent steps to establish peace in Ukraine and what can be done for civilians trying to leave besieged areas and how to help UN aid get in. He'll then see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Are we?
We are.
Oh, okay, good.
That's my shtick. If you hear it, it means we are.
I just wanted to make sure. You were unclear.
Oh. Mofo.
That's right. See, and now the pronoun comes full circle. Nice callback. Well done. 603-283-6160. That's the telephone number here at Free Talk Live. If you'd like to call in, join us, talk about what we're talking about, talk about something else, change the subject. If you're not into what we're talking about, that's just fine. 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
I do need to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. What are you doing over there, Richie Rich? Are you feeling yourself up or what? Oh, you're pointing out
Bitcoin.
Pointing out that you got
a
a
B because I'm wearing the Bitcoin.com shirt.
I thought you were like, trying to shake it.
No, I'll flex the pecs.
Trying to jiggle your Twitters. There's no longer any excuse for ignoring this important world-changing information. If you're already a knowledgeable crypto user, you can check out news.bitcoin.com to get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com. All right, we are going to continue talking about commercial spyware and that type of a thing, but we have a caller. Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes. Have you ever heard of the planet called Hadron?
Hadron?
Hadron, and it's the word hedonic comes from that planet.
How do you spell it?
It's Hedron, Hadron.
Okay, I got you. I've never heard of it. You guys?
I've heard of K-Pax.
What about Hadron?
They became, the word hedonic means like sense gratification, like pleasure oriented.
Like hedonism.
Right.
Yeah, hedonic, and then became so hedonic that they actually blew the whole planet up from nuclear fission, a nuclear war, and it blew up the whole planet. Now it is orbit. Now they have just like a trace, like a orbit that. But it was the closest
like
planet to the Earth. Well, it's like those like debris that is just what asteroid belt. That's what they call it. It's a asteroid belt that's around the planet, and it blew itself up. And what's interesting about this is that supposedly 1/3 of the souls were deemed to save. So they reincarnated in the earth, and they came as Jewish people, like Jews.
Oh man!
So
all right.
I was thinking Scientology and whatever those volcano people.
Waiting for the tie-in. This from Wikipedia.
Jews, okay, got it.
I'm sorry. No, it's not from Wikipedia. It's from encyclopedia.org. summitlighthouse.org. I've never heard of this before.
Sounds
It
reliable.
looks just like Wikipedia. It says Hadron was at one time a planet in the solar system, once a paradise of beauty and culture. Hadron contained within its casual body a divine plan for Golden Age civilization. The other references I found to Hadron are from the science fiction series Doctor Who over on the TARDIS.fandom.com website. And then also there is a reference to Hadron. Where is it? It's Super Mario, apparently.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's what I was able to find just as Sarah was talking.
Yeah.
Right, and then the article that I read was from the Summit Lighthouse article.
There you
but
go.
I don't know, but you got in more detail about they had that Golden Age civilization, very advanced technology. But the thing is, remember how the Jewish people are always called the chosen people?
Yes, Zephyr, tell us more.
Right, the chosen people, that's the explanation behind this planet, is that they're not chosen because they're any better than anybody else, but the fact that they were chosen out of the one they're supposed to be put to the second death. They were 1/3 of that chosen one out of the planet blowing up. That was 1/3 of the soul that were saved.
Okay.
That's why they were chosen.
I'm one of those Jews that actually chose the Jewish life. The Jewish life didn't choose me.
Oh, darn.
So you are
not your ancestors.
you're not hereditarily Jewish.
No, I went through a 1.5 year long conversion process.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I had that question earlier, but I neglected to ask it before the show. And there are many people who do that. As a comedian, I have made fun of all religions, including the Jewish religion.
It's a fun one to make fun of.
And people are like, "Well, you're anti-Semitic." It's like, no, I'm a comedian, and I make fun of all the religions, right? So, and I have insanely. But
when are you going to show us your picture of Muhammad?
I burnt it.
Okay.
Good answer.
So I had something else I was alluding to, and I've lost my train of thought.
Derailed it again.
So well done, Richie Rich. Zephyr?
But are you Jewish as a comedian? If you're Jewish, you could make fun of yourself. You know that.
Well,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I make fun of everybody personally. I mean, even if I wasn't Jewish, I would make fun of Jews because they're fun to make fun of.
But I think what they're talking about is that hereditary Jew. You have to be genetically Jewish.
No,
so that makes sense. So that they are the chosen
the ones
out
from
of
Hadron.
the Hadron that was saved. So the other 2/3 were put to the second death, which is the lake of the fire. What that means is that your soul becomes no longer a soul. Your soul becomes like energized. And it gets put into the energy pool. That's what we're talking about. That's the second death. God's not going to torture you and burn you in hell forever. It just means that you lose your soul as an identity. You just get put in back in the melting pot.
Does that make
That's
the
what it
Large
means.
Hadron Collider a Jewish conspiracy?
Oh, man, I'm glad you brought that up because when she said Hadron, that's the first thing I thought of. And when I think of the Large Hadron Collider, I think to myself, is there also a Medium Hadron Collider?
Well, and the interesting thing about Hadron is that's actually where we used to store our Jewish space lasers. But once the planet collapsed in on itself, we had to move them to the moon.
I thought they
Sarah,
sent,
thanks for the
they
call.
sent one Hadronite to Earth to save it.
Yeah.
So
that's how
I just want to point out to everybody that we have confirmed the Jewish lasers do exist or did,
Landed in
and were
Mediumville.
stored at Hadron, apparently. So things you only hear on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I got the inside scoop.
Thanks for the call, Sarah. We appreciate it. I don't know anything about this website. The Summit
Sounds legit.
Lighthouse Ascended Master Free Encyclopedia.
They co-opted the Wikipedia.
It looks
style.
exactly like Wikipedia. Like I thought it was Wikipedia until
That's how
I
they get you.
scrutinized, and I'm like, wait, this isn't Wikipedia.
Good thing they can't hide their real URL anymore.
It's the off-brand Wikipedia.
It's the New England version, Wickedpedia. It's totally
Trademark.
wicked. Park your car around the corner. It's wicked. It's wicked strange. All right, let's go back to talking about the software,
the end of democracy,
and how democracies use spyware. So commercial spyware has grown into an industry estimated to be worth $12 billion so far.
Is it really spyware anymore, though? Like, I feel that the average person gives up all their information voluntarily. and you don't really need to spy on so many people anymore.
I think it depends on what you mean by voluntarily. I mean,
putting all your information into Twitter and Facebook and sharing every little detail about what you had for dinner last night on social media.
But there are certain things that I think most people don't think about. Like, for example, when they're looking stuff up on Google, sure, we all know this stuff because we've looked into it, but I think that when people are searching things up on Google, they're not thinking, oh, there's this algorithm that's tracking my each and every move. So I don't know if those people are necessarily consenting to it.
I would say that most people, while in the legal sense of consenting, right, EULAs and that type of a thing, have clicked the yes button and agreed to Lord knows what.
Right.
You know, in that respect, sure, legally they're consenting, but that's a sticky wicket. Because if they don't understand what they're signing, should they be held to it? We'll talk more about this coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
And we're back.
And we're back. Not just we're back. And we're back.
That never gets old.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned it before on this show that I used to play Madden, the NFL video game, and there were several versions. Like if you'd hit pause, when you would unpause, they would always say something. You're like, welcome back to the game. Let's get back to the game on the field. And welcome back. And welcome back to the game. Welcome back to the game on like all these different, slightly different iterations. And so I would just sit there and pause and unpause to get through all of them until I was like, I'm pretty sure I've gone through all of them and heard them all now. So,
and to be fair, that's like my shtick for the podcast that I do.
It is.
But I only say it once at the beginning, and I don't take breaks. So it's only like once a week that you got to hear that. But the captain does the point at me, and then that's my line. So that's what I say.
I have one carryover from the Kick-Ass podcast that I used to do when I was in the Seattle, Washington area, and that is at the end of the show, I say thanks, peace, because I like that as a closing. It is something that I wish upon my fellow man, and also I want to thank people for listening. So thanks and peace.
Yeah, I've noticed that you do that when you close.
I close with peace as well. It also seems appropriate.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this article from The New Yorker where it talks a little bit about, they really have just barely scratched the subject matter here of commercial spyware. Now, for the sake of argument, we're just going to call it spyware because it is an industry.
Okay.
Right? And there are companies who specifically set out to become a spyware, quote unquote, company. So for the sake of, continuing on with this article,
I will not interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You have a legitimate point about do people consent or not consent when they click OK on these really long EULAs with a bunch of legalese in it.
Or turn over all their information to social media companies.
Yeah. The first rule of the internet was, and in my opinion still is, don't put your real information online.
Yeah.
It was, and to me, always is the first rule of the internet.
That's why us old people have handles.
Right.
Like, you just knew that guy by his handle, not because he ID verified with the company and only is allowed to put his real name on there.
Yeah. So commercial spyware has grown into an industry estimated to be worth $12 billion. It is largely unregulated and increasingly controversial. In recent years, investigations by Citizen Lab and Amnesty International have revealed the presence of Pegasus on the phones of politicians, activists, dissidents under repressive regimes. An analysis by Forensic Architecture, a research group at the University of London, has linked Pegasus to 300 acts of physical violence. It has been used to target members of Rwanda's opposition party and journalists exposing corruption in El Salvador. In Mexico, it appeared on the phones of several people close to the reporter Javier Valdez Cardenas, who was murdered after investigating drug cartels. Around the time that Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia approved the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, I'm not sure if Khashoggi, thank you, a longtime critic, Pegasus was allegedly used to monitor phones belonging to Khashoggi's associates, possibly facilitating the killing. That was in 2018.
I wonder how many Pegasus instances are on the phones of the January 6th insurrectionists.
That is a good question. Further reporting through a collaboration of news outlets known as Pegasus Project has reinforced the links between NSO Group and anti-democratic states. But there is evidence that Pegasus is being used in at least 45 countries. And it is similar. It and similar tools have been purchased by law enforcement agencies in the United States and across Europe.
There you go.
Kristen Flynn Goodwin, a Microsoft executive who has led the company's efforts to fight spyware, told me, the big dirty secret is that governments are buying this stuff, not just authoritarian governments, but all types of governments. I, of course,
all governments are authoritarian.
Thank you. Yes. When I read that the first time, I was like, this person obviously doesn't quite understand the nature of government.
They just have sets of degrees, I guess, of authoritarian.
Yeah, varying
sets of degrees.
Right, yeah. Well, you were going to say something a minute ago.
I said soon to be authoritarian if they're not already.
Right. I can't think of a government that's not authoritarian.
Maybe Castle of One.
Okay. Maybe there's some sort
Catalonia?
No. They're
maybe in the software world there's like governance. There's like, software policies, or even in smart contracts and that kind of a thing.
Right.
There might be non-authoritarian governance, but not when it comes to the organization commonly referred to as government.
As far as the article author is concerned, it's probably those regimes that are dictatorial.
Yes.
Versus those that are democratically or howeverly elected.
Right. And it's always, well, not my government. Everybody else's government.
Oh, of course,
but not my government, right? It's probably
and
where
it
they're coming
depends
from.
on how you define authoritarianism. I mean, in North Korea, they obviously have a very, very authoritarian government by their standards, but they would say essentially capitalism, the fact that you have to go to work every day and that you have to provide for your own, I guess, and work under the boot of the bourgeoisie. That is way more authoritarian than what they have.
Yes, perspective also is definitely a factor. NSO Group is perhaps the most successful, controversial, and influential firm in a generation of Israeli startups that have made the country the center of the spyware industry. I first interviewed Shalev Julio, NSO Group CEO, in 2019, and then I have had access to NSO Group's staff, offices, and technology. The company is in a state of contradiction and crisis. Its programmers speak with pride about the use of their software in criminal investigations. NSO claims that Pegasus is sold only to law enforcement and intelligence agencies, but also of the illicit thrill of compromising technology platforms. The company has been valued at more than $1 billion. And I just want to comment on that because, as a guy who's done tech support, software QA, and a little bit of, we'll call it telephony systems programming, system admin type stuff, there is a thrill to be found in solving a problem, right? You encounter a thing and you figure out, or even a workaround. You're like, well, until our developers can, write a patch for that, we've created this workaround for you. There's a thrill in that. What I don't get is the thrill that somebody who works for a spyware company would get on subverting somebody's freedoms, on otherwise basically taking their freedom away because, they clicked on a thing or they were sent a text or what have you.
Because you remove the humanity when you're talking about an enemy.
Well, and have you ever seen a cat play with a mouse?
I have. Yeah. I guess to me that's not something I think I would enjoy.
No,
is what I'm getting at.
Because you're a human with empathy, that's why.
Perhaps. I've been called a psychopath recently because I mentioned manifesting, and somebody was like, the last couple of people I've met that talked about manifestation turned out to be psychopaths. And I thought to myself, well, you should probably figure out why you're manifesting that.
Well, Hitler drank water too.
And we covered the criteria for psychopaths on a recent episode.
We did. That's true.
So,
the company has been valued. This is back to the article talking of NSO. The company has been valued at more than $1 billion, but now it is contending with debt, battling an array of corporate backers, and according to industry observers, faltering in its long-standing efforts to sell its products to U.S. law enforcement, in part through an America branch, Westbridge Technologies. It also faces numerous lawsuits in many countries brought by Meta, formerly Facebook, Apple, and by individuals who have been hacked by NSO. The company said in its statement that it had been targeted by a number of politically motivated advocacy organizations, many with well-known anti-Israeli biases, and added that, We have repeatedly cooperated with governmental investigations where credible allegations merit and have learned from each of these findings and reports and improved the safeguards in our technologies. That sounds like word salad to me.
It sounds like they're trying to cover up the fact that they know what they're doing, and it's bad.
Julio told me, back to the article, Julio told me, I've never imagined in my life that this company would be so famous. I never imagined that we would be so successful. He paused.
Well, because if you're a spy company, you're not supposed to get caught.
And I never imagined that it would be so controversial. How do you imagine that a spyware company is not going to be controversial?
Everyone loves getting spied on, don't you know?
Yeah, the fame I get, right? Like,
well, have you ever installed a keylogger on your computer?
I've done it just to see what it looks like, right? So that I could identify it if it were ever installed, not by me, on a piece of gear that I own.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wanted to see what that looks like. Plus, there's something to be said for white hat hacking.
I don't know about you guys, but nothing makes me feel more relaxed than knowing that someone's breathing down my neck.
Right? Yeah, I mean, what a comforting thought, right?
If it's a masseuse, I'm for it.
603-283-6160. Do you think that your phone has spyware on it right now? Give us a call. Let us know. This is Free Talk Live.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term in the Élysée Palace. According to initial projections, he beat far-right candidate Marine Le Pen 58% to 42%. Our correspondent Ross Cullen watched Macron's address to crowds at the Eiffel Tower.
He wanted to underline his green message as well, his message of support for those voters who didn't vote for him in the first round or in the second round, saying that he would focus on battling the climate emergency. He would also focus on the young. He was surrounded by young supporters of his party En Marche as he gave his celebratory election-winning speech on a big stage in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Macron's win is being welcomed by many European leaders who feared Le Pen might destabilise EU and NATO unity. The National Rally leader, who also lost to Macron in 2017, conceded in front of her supporters in Paris, but told them the result is still a victory for her party. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. Sergio Olmos is in the Ukrainian capital with the latest.
We just had air raid sirens not too long ago as the United States Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Secretary of State visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ongoing aid and military equipment to Ukrainian armed forces. This comes as President Joe Biden announced an $800 million package to Ukraine on Thursday.
President Zelensky says he hopes to welcome his US counterpart Joe Biden to Ukraine when security allows. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is heading to Moscow this week to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. From Moscow, Stuart Smith reports.
The Orthodox Easter weekend passed without a ceasefire despite the UN chief's attempt to arrange one. Now he's embarking on a round of meetings, first to Turkey to meet President Erdogan, and then on Tuesday to Russia for a working lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before meeting with the Russian president himself. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken Guterres' phone calls or had any contact with him since the UN's top diplomat said Russia's so-called special military operation violated the UN Charter. A UN spokesperson says Guterres will discuss urgent steps to establish peace in Ukraine and what can be done for civilians trying to leave besieged areas and how to help UN aid get in. He'll then see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the fury of a Democratic Party state lawmaker in Michigan who is refusing to tolerate the casual manner in which Republicans now often accuse their opponents of being pedophiles. One of Mallory McMorrow's Republican opponents in the state last week sent supporters a fundraising email accusing her of grooming children simply because she opposes efforts to restrict the ability of children to be taught about racism, sexism and sexuality in school. So last week in the Michigan State Assembly, Representative McMorrow let rip.
I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. No one in this room is responsible for slavery. But each and every single one of us bears responsibility for writing the next chapter of history. Each and every single one of us decides what happens next. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
Over the weekend, she got a call from President Biden congratulating her on a speech that has catapulted her to national prominence.
A reminder for you of our top stories. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, beating Marine Le Pen and becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
Congress today passed a landmark Social Security reform bill they estimate could save the troubled program billions. The so-called Grab Life by the Balls bill includes provisions to cut the cost of cigarettes in half, outlaws helmets, and adjusts the CDC's recommended amount of sleep from 8 hours a night to when you're dead. The bill's short-term initiatives aim to immediately cut Social Security costs in half by replacing senior citizens' monthly checks with vouchers for grain, alcohol, and extreme sports.
I got this coupon to motocross over a canyon. Better do my part to help the deficit.
Supporters in Congress say the cost will be offset by the so-called pussy tax on products such as sweaters, vegetables, hand soap, and flu shots.
America, would you rather die old, broke, and forgotten, or die a mother-f***ing legend?
The new program follows in the footsteps of the Life is a Cartoon Medicare campaign, which encourages seniors to run full speed off of cliffs and smoke sticks of dynamite.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
And we're back.
Hey, thanks, man. You almost forgot.
I know.
603-283-6160. That is the telephone number here in the studio of Free Talk Live. It's the number you need to dial if you want to join us in our conversations tonight. We are here 7 nights a week from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Sometimes our shows will get played on repeat or outside of those hours. So if you do want to call, please call between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. But we're here 7 days a week. So, if you missed your chance on any other nights, you could call it tonight or some other night. We're here 7 days a week. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Stefan.
And Rich.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of that here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website competing with YouTube, and it is really taking off now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so now we're streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, you can download the desktop app over at lbry.com. And then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed to keep it online forever. Visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. Video.freetalklive.com. All right, so we were talking about spyware, Citizen Lab, and some of their spyware offerings, and we may come back to that. But earlier in the program, we had mentioned, Zephyr had mentioned, the anniversary of something called the Pine Tree Riot.
Right. So this year is actually the 250th anniversary of the Pine Tree Riot, and Americans for Prosperity put on an event today. It had seemed like about 150 people there, quite a few state reps and about 3 state senators. But
so in my mind, knowing nothing about a pine tree riot, for example, I think of pine trees suddenly coming to life and throwing Molotov cocktails and turning over police cars.
Furs will not replace us.
They're riot. The pine trees are rioting. Okay. What is a pine tree riot?
So to give essentially the Cliff Notes version of it, back in the day, but when the New England colonies were under British control, the Parliament essentially made an edict stating that all trees that were above 24 inches were the default property of England.
So all trees.
Yeah. Well, no. So that's the thing. So this law was actually not enforced, but because for whatever reason. But then as time went on, they lowered the threshold to be 12 inches. Wow. And so the
bonsais are now included.
I was like, there goes my bonsai.
So that basically encompassed, most trees. And the main reason why they had this regulation was because back then the Navy was the pride and joy of the British military, and the pines that we have here are they're very flexible, and so they make perfect masts
to make old wooden ships out
right
of.
Yeah, well, and the masts in particular, they're the perfect basically material for it. And so
if you conquer a land, you get the products of that land,
right? And so once the 12-inch regulation was put into place on April 13th, 1772, County Sheriff Benjamin Whiting and his deputy, John Quigley, of Francistown, were charged with delivering warrants and making arrests in the king's name for violation of this law.
Okay.
And so they galloped into Ware, which is where the Pine Tree Riot happened, no pun intended, and found major offender Ebenezer Mudgett, who promised to pay his fine the next day. And then when the officials then retired, to the nearby Quimbley's Inn for an overnight stay. Essentially, what ended up happening was Ebenezer and some of his men that were also violating it broke into their room and wrestled the two deputies and beat them with long poles.
Whoa.
Yeah, for trying to enforce this unjust law. And so this
where is that spirit now?
Yeah.
Amongst the locals.
Yeah.
And so this historians actually say was the first spark that began the American Revolution.
Right, 1772,
right,
obviously,
yeah.
Everybody thinks 1776.
Yeah, this, because the first thing that people say is the Boston Massacre, right? But the people from the Boston Massacre were actually inspired by this. And if you see those flags that have the pine tree on it, and then underneath it says "Appeal to Heaven," when I first saw those, I thought that was a sort of a religious reference, but no, it's actually a reference to this event. To the pine tree riot.
So how does a couple of guys beating a sheriff how do they get the term riot involved?
Because essentially the deputy sheriff didn't enforce the law, basically saying like, oh, these people were a threat to my safety, and very similar to what we heard today.
I feared for my life.
Yeah,
right.
I feared for my life. And so the king wasn't able to enforce his edict. He wasn't able to get to punish these people for and to be fair, like just so that people have a greater picture, some people did comply, but the people that didn't comply were the ones that were actually punished the least. So for every violation of the of that law, basically there was a 50-pound punishment, and then I think that the local judge that ruled over the case of beating the sheriff ended up giving them like a 100 shilling fine for beating the sheriff. So literally cutting down a tree and that's on your own property, one would think, is 1,000 times worse than just beating a sheriff. Yeah.
So to be clear, we're celebrating an attack on law enforcement.
Indeed.
And I get in trouble for that. Just saying.
Well, there's a difference between celebrating something that happened in the past.
Oh, okay.
And potentially advocating for it.
Okay.
Well, there's also
the spirit of the act.
There's also a time and place for everything, and clearly the thing that worked out the best in that time was to beat him, and who knows, maybe we'll get to that point again. Only time will tell, really.
It was a good time since 1772.
I have, back in 1772, I remember, no, I don't.
You could just wrestle the sheriff, and if you win, you don't have to pay your fine.
I have been thinking.
I long for those days.
Well, you pay a lesser fine for beating the sheriff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody recently mentioned the phrase "land of the free, home of the brave," and I thought to myself, outside of what we see with the the New Hampshire Liberty Movement, the Free State Project, and all the other sorts of folks who are coming here to like-minded people to try and change things, I don't see a lot of land of the free in the United States of America.
Do you see Home of the Brave?
I certainly do not see Home of the Brave.
Okay,
yeah,
just checking.
They're the home of the quivering in their homes and triple vaxxing and masking.
I now call it, because I'm a parody artist, I have a parody phrase that I've made. It's land of the fee, home of the slave.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because this is what I see. Now, people go, we're not slaves. I'm free to get up and go to work and blah, 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 and I can choose blah, 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 and I can watch my cable TV or whatever. Right, did you get your like, people don't understand slavery light is still slavery. No matter what flavor you put on it, it's still slavery. Somebody taking 100% of your life's effort, that's what most people think is slavery.
Yeah. Well, this is the beautiful part about the Free State Movement, and we can obviously continue this on to the next segment.
Chattel slaves got room and board, man.
Yeah, coming up, we'll continue our discussion on the Pine Tree Riots and what is the land of the free and the home of the brave anyway. Do you feel free and brave? 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
What are we?
And we're back.
We are back. 603-283-6160. That is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live. If you'd like to join us, those are the digits you'll need. 603-283-6160.
In that order.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, don't dial them in any other order, otherwise, Lord knows where you end up. In the studio, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
Zephin.
And Rich.
I need to tell you about ForkFest 2022 coming up shortly. Right? It's already almost May.
Fast approaching.
You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, and that means there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and the Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. Again, links to those are found at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Again, forkfest.party. All right, so we've been talking about the anniversary of the Pine Tree riots, and I'm happy to come back to that. But first, let's go to David in New Mexico who's calling. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Is that Independence Day or Independence Day?
I call it Dependence Day because, well, as people who have tax money taken from them to pay for Lord knows what, you have dependents. They're known as people who work in government, and you should be able to claim them as dependents, I think.
If you're old enough, it's just Independence Day.
When New Hampshire declares independence, I think that the Pine Tree Riot would be a wonderful day to commemorate our independence.
Yes.
Well, I'm feeling free because, like I told you, I'm free balling. Wearing boxers.
Boxers? Yeah.
Not the Speedo?
Free balling.
Not right now. Earlier today, I was wearing the Speedo.
Oh.
Was it tangerine?
Yeah. You want pictures?
I just put them on Twitter, man, and I'll check it later.
Yeah, Richie Rich seems to have enjoyed your...
Too late, Richie. Too late, Richie. I already DM'd you.
Oh, he's creeping up.
He slid into your DMs, Rich.
No, I'm checking.
I don't know that I want to know about this.
I'm checking and I'm showing and I'm showing and I'm checking. And they're in Richie's inbox right now.
Is it inbox or inboxers?
Oh, God.
Both, man, and in Speedo.
No, it's not in my inbox. The last thing I got was some spam from Zoom.
Oh, man, they must have filtered it out. So you probably didn't get those nudes either, did you?
Which platform did you send it on or through?
All of them, man, all of them.
So he didn't send anything. Yeah,
likely story.
Did you have a purpose for calling other than?
Are you disappointed? Are you disappointed, Richie?
I kind of am because I want to take you as a trustworthy individual, David. And if you say you sent me something,
reputation. There goes my bad reputation.
I know.
There goes my So I did call about something. Did you see me on TV, on the cable TV, in that one show or that other show?
I Catch a Predator.
The one, that one, America's Most Wanted. No, the one. It is a cop show, though. It is a cop show. I'm on the screen with Mary. Let's see, what show was that? I've been in so many, I can't even remember what it was. In Plain Sight.
I don't watch cop shows.
Did anybody see In Plain Sight?
Was it no?
I don't know where to watch it. It's obviously not in plain sight.
Law and Order Special Ed Unit.
It's hidden, Special Ed Unit. I'm in several episodes, but one of them ties into the captain's portmanteau. What was that portmanteau you came up with last night, there, Captain?
Oh, that's a ways back for me to remember.
Yesterday, 23 hours.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of incestuous, like the court system, the judicial system in New Mexico, and incestuous and nepotistic. And
nepocestuous or
nepocestuous. There you go. So this ties into
I remember that one.
Yeah, nepocestuous, the judicial system in the state of New Mexico. It ties in because you can see me on TV. On that In Plain Sight show on one of the episodes with Judge. Let's see, what's his name? Jewel. What's
Judge John
Tommy,
J. Romero?
Tommy. Yeah. No, well, close.
And Monica Zamora?
You're on it, man. You are on it because M. Monica Zamora was the presiding judge of the Children's Division, and so was John Romero, and so was this guy I'm telling you about, Tommy Jewell, the one you can see me on TV with. All three of them held the exact same job.
I seen the movie Richard Jewell. Remember that guy?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do you get the pattern there? All three of them. Nepo, incestuous, incesto, nepo, to whatever word you came up with. All three of them held the exact
Abiogenesis.
And now we know another New Mexico judge to add to our roster.
Yep, we've
Tommy Jewell, married to who?
Jewell,
Mrs. Jewell.
Man. Well, Angela Jewell. She was a judge too. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And soon you will see.
And so I'm in a scene. You can watch TV and see me in a scene without being cut.
What's the name of the show?
In Plain Sight.
In Plain Sight. What episode? Do you know? Episode 1, 2, 3?
I don't remember the episode. I don't remember the episode. They're inside a house and there's a party, and the main character chick, Mary, what's her name? That might be her real name. I don't remember what her actor name, real name. But no, Mary, blonde chick. Anyway, Mary's at a party with her family, and I'm in the same room with Tommy Jewell, the judge that held the same position as Zamora and Romero, and she's married, and Tommy Jewell is married to Angela Jewell, who is another judge that presided over my case. Can you imagine this crap? How incestuous and nepotistic it is.
If we watch the show, does David get residual payments for being in it?
Oh, I don't know. Do you?
No.
Were you an extra?
No.
Did you have to sign a thing?
Extra. Hear all about it. I was a background. Yeah. So I don't get any speaking lines, and therefore you do not get any residual.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we'll check it out, David. Thanks for the call. He was on TV. You know,
I'm not gonna
let the guy have his 30 seconds
his moment
of what is it? Andy Warhol said it.
15
minutes of fame, something like that. Yeah.
Total it up. Got more than that on Free Talk Live.
Surprising that he was able to contain himself to be an extra, because he's just overflowing with personality.
Certainly a large personality type guy,
Yeah.
for sure. So we were talking about the Pine Tree riots and the state of freedom and that kind of thing. Do we have more to say about that?
Well, I wanted to just mention that this is what I love about our movement, the Free State Project, and all of that, is that we're very much embodying that freedom and that culture and history that has made this country, or I'm getting ahead of myself, that's made this state so great.
Yes, I wish there was a lot more of it, and if you're feeling it yourself, perhaps you should consider the move to New Hampshire if you want to be the change that you want to bring about in this world. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Emmanuel Macron has won the French presidential election, becoming the first incumbent in 20 years to be re-elected for a second term in the Élysée Palace. According to initial projections, he beat far-right candidate Marine Le Pen 58% to 42%. Our correspondent Ross Cullen watched Macron's address to crowds at the Eiffel Tower.
He wanted to underline his green message as well, his message of support for those voters who didn't vote for him in the first round or in the second round, saying that he would focus on battling the climate emergency. He would also focus on the young. He was surrounded by young supporters of his party En Marche as he gave his celebratory election-winning speech on a big stage in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Macron's win is being welcomed by many European leaders who feared Le Pen might destabilise EU and NATO unity. The National Rally leader, who also lost to Macron in 2017, conceded in front of her supporters in Paris, but told them the result is still a victory for her party. Nigeria's president says his nation is in shock and trauma following the deaths of at least 100 people from an explosion at an illegal oil refinery in the south of the country. President Muhammadu Buhari described the incident as a catastrophe and a national disaster. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has met with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Kiev. Sergio Olmos is in the Ukrainian capital with the latest.
We just had air raid sirens not too long ago as the United States Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Secretary of State visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ongoing aid and military equipment to Ukrainian armed forces. This comes as President Joe Biden announced an $800 million package to Ukraine on Thursday.
President Zelensky says he hopes to welcome his US counterpart Joe Biden to Ukraine when security allows. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is heading to Moscow this week to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. From Moscow, Stuart Smith reports.
The Orthodox Easter weekend passed without a ceasefire despite the UN chief's attempt to arrange one. Now he's embarking on a round of meetings, first to Turkey to meet President Erdogan, and then on Tuesday to Russia for a working lunch with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before meeting with the Russian president himself. Vladimir Putin hasn't taken Guterres' phone calls or had any contact with him since the UN's top diplomat said Russia's so-called special military operation violated the UN Charter. A UN spokesperson says Guterres will discuss urgent steps to establish peace in Ukraine and what can be done for civilians trying to leave besieged areas and how to help UN aid get in. He'll then see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Oh, I get to say it now? And we're back!
Yes. All right, there you go. Thank you. 603-283-6160. That's the telephone number. We'll get to your calls and thoughts momentarily. This is Free Talk Live. We're a live call-in radio talk program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
Before we go to the phones and the fun, I need to make sure that I say thank you to Tim. Tim is a silver level amplifier. What is an amplifier, you might ask? Well, yes, it is a large electronic thing that makes guitars sound great, but it's also somebody who's visited amps.freetalklive.com and decided that they liked this show enough. The characters, the hosts, the content, the message of peace, freedom, liberty that we bring. They've liked the show enough to help us get on more radio stations and promote these messages. So Tim has decided to give $5 a month. He's a silver level amplifier. You can give more. There's different levels. It's a Patreon type thing over at amps.freetalklive.com. So if you have enjoyed the content of this show, if we've brought value into your life, please visit amps.freetalklive.com and consider becoming an amplifier. There's some special things you get once you do decide to give but that's not the important part. The important part is the message that we're trying to get. We're currently on like 190-ish radio stations. We could be on 250, 300 radio stations. Not out of the question. It's all up to you. Amps.freetalklive.com.
And what's AMPS stand for?
Advertise, market, promote, and support.
1 million radio stations.
1 million. Thanks again, Tim, for your contribution. We appreciate you. All right. So we have some callers. Let's go to Gems calling from New Hampshire. Gems, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm James. I'm here to talk about Bruce Fenton. Bruce Fenton is running for New Hampshire Senate.
Whoa. Are you on a speakerphone,
Freedom.
Gems?
Huh?
Are you on a speakerphone?
No, I'm not.
Okay, you're just kind of dropping out there, so not really sure what's going on. Can you just say it again?
Yeah. I'm here to talk about Bruce Fenton.
Bruce Fenton, okay.
Is running for New Hampshire Senate. He believes in freedom, Bitcoin, and less government and more comic books.
Nice.
You can learn more about him at brucefenton.com.
I have heard that he is running, and I see some folks on my social media talking about him. Are you guys aware?
Yeah, Bruce Fenton's based. I love him.
Not a clue.
Yeah, and I do like another candidate that's running, though. His name's Jeremy Kaufman.
Oh, yeah.
He's also running for U.S. Senate.
Are they running for the same office, or is he running?
They are both running for the same office.
Yeah, so there's competition amongst freedom-loving people for the same seat.
But this
not happening in your state.
Well, but this is the primary, so right now the fight is to make sure that Bruce Fenton gets the spot of being the Republican choice for Senate. And once that happens, we'll see. But I'm all in on Jeremy Kaufman's Senate run until then, because war is gay.
Is Jeremy running as Republican?
He's running under the LP.
Oh, okay. So you can support Bruce and Jeremy up until the general.
Yep, that's my plan.
Okay, there you go.
James? Anything else?
Yes. Go to brucefenton.com.
All right. Hey, we appreciate the call. Thanks. And feel free to call again. Indeed. The interesting thing about the larger freedom movement here in New Hampshire is, well, all of the characters, right?
Yeah.
Characters indeed.
Generally speaking, people who are motivated to achieve more freedom are colorful people.
Yep.
Now there's something to be said about social change is generally made by eccentric people, so that's how it starts. We attract a whole bunch of eccentric sort of people, and they all congregate, and they all have a similar belief system, although I know one of the favorite pastimes of freedom-loving people is to argue with other freedom-loving people about who's more correct about certain things, and that's kind of fun too to watch sometimes, but sometimes it gets heated, that kind of a thing. But it certainly is interesting to watch.
The Overton window of the spectrum, as you will.
Now, I feel like Richie Rich and I might have the same stance on, like running for an elected office, and that is that voting. I don't know. I think it's a horrible idea. I think it's a horrible way to make decisions in your life and that kind of a thing. It is interesting, though, for me to watch, folks run for and get elected to positions here in New Hampshire, because it's a bit easier to do here than it is in, say, California, for example.
And we have anarchists running the government. Like that's what it seems like, at least to me. Like if you look at a lot of the NHLA scoring of at least people in the House, we've got about 150 reps that vote A- or above in favor with the NHLA, and I'm on it. I know the people that are on it. It's very much our people, and so I agree that basically in most circumstances when you vote, you're feeding the monster, and it's not good. But here it really does seem like one, your vote has more impact because one state rep represents about roughly 3,000 people. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more.
That's 2,999 too many.
No, agreed. But
Yeah.
But it does make a big impact, and I think that a lot of the success that we've been seeing in the state in regards to liberty has been the agorism, has been all of these other things that we've been doing. But there also is something to be said about the political wins that we've been getting.
So let me caveat my position because you said we might agree, and we probably do for the most part. I don't vote, haven't voted, probably will never vote, almost guaranteed I'll never vote. For me, the purpose of running a political campaign, if you're going to do it, should always be satirical in nature. Like it should be designed to poke fun at that system and show what it really is.
Like Jeremy Kaufman's.
Yeah, that's why I love Jeremy Kaufman's running.
Right. But but without the intention to win, right? Like if that campaign works and he wins, then like one of two things will happen. He'll like step down because that's what the real anarchists would, likely do, or the power of the system corrupts him. And he goes like, well, now that I've got control, I can do good with the ring of power.
No, it sounds like he's going to continue the satire piece. He says that if he was elected, one of the first things he would do would be to 3D print a gun within the Senate chambers.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I think that's a way that you can kind of do both. You can kind of take the ring of power and then use it to like create like a gesture sort of thing where you're making fun of the state.
And if he were to chamber a round of the 3D printed gun in the chambers, it would give Senate chambers new meaning.
Yeah, well, that would have definitely been much more of a threat to the regime than January 6th was. So
right, yeah. I can imagine a time where folks, freedom-oriented people have perhaps gotten elected to positions, and everybody in a political meeting is open carrying. Wouldn't that be great? Like, I just think that would be great.
Yeah, well, I testified on some bills earlier last week, and at all four of them, I was open carrying, and
nice.
It's good to normalize it.
I'm going to take a pot shot real quick at everyone's favorite libertarian, Ron Paul, because he radicalized a lot of individuals.
Yes,
myself included.
Right, even him as Dr. No. Right, within his jurisdiction or his purview as a House member, he would put pork in the bills knowing it would pass and then still vote no on it, but still getting money sent back to his jurisdiction. So whatever, dude.
Yep, that is how politics works, sadly.
Well, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
603-283-6160. Are you freedom-oriented, and are you planning to move to New Hampshire? More Free Talk Live is coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Forkfest takes place the week after Porkfest, but Forkfest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Yes, we are. We're also front and side.
Front, back, side to side.
This is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Although it is the final segment, so if you're not already on hold, you probably aren't going to get on. But we are here 7 nights a week, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. If you've missed any of tonight's program, shortly after the show is over, you'll be able to listen back to it over at freetalklive.com, as well as any of our other previous episodes. And I don't even know how far back it goes. It goes back an extensive ways back. So if you've missed any of the other shows, feel free. If you have just discovered the show and you want to kind of get an idea for what the show's all about, that's also a great place for you to start. There's also, I don't know how else to find them other than on SoundCloud, but there's Riley Blake. He's a sometimes guest host here on Free Talk Live. He takes and he puts together a condensed version of the 3-hour show and calls them the Free Talk Live Digest. He does that by himself. We don't pay him to do it. He's great. He's great at it, and he does put a little blurb if you want to donate to him in the middle of those. But I use them to keep up with what everybody else has talked about on the show just as a host. It helps me keep up because I don't have, 6 times 3, 18 hours to catch up on the show every week. So I'll use those. So if you like that content, feel free to seek that out as well. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Zephin.
And Richie Rich.
Let's go to Greg in New York. Greg, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey. I want to talk about war.
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
That's right.
And it's
like
gay.
The government. Basically, we've got all this technology, the army, all these weapons, and, when they go ahead and they invade somewhere, they always say the same things, First of all, they don't show the people back home the kind of atrocities they're doing.
Of course not, because then we might be against it.
Yet not since Vietnam have they shown the actual, grotesqueness of war.
Nope, they don't show that, but they do tell you how important it is to be there. That is, if they even tell you they're there. Sometimes they don't even tell their own people that they're there.
Well, and their own people can't even point to you where on a map we're even engaged in. That's another problem.
Didn't Donald Trump run into that problem? Like, he said, we're getting out, and then he gave the order to get out, and then the generals went, nah, we're not getting out. Right? And then there's like, I thought we told you guys we're getting out, and it wasn't.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, and then the media basically spends years sort of like prepping the public to support whatever it is that they're doing. It's like, oh, whatever it is, it must be necessary to go over there and do that thing which kills a lot of people and maims a lot of people. So what I find interesting is that in every country, when you tell them that their army is doing war crimes or whatever, they say that you are some kind of foreign agent. that you, and this is in every country. Yeah.
Well, don't you know there's nothing more patriotic than supporting Nazis in Ukraine?
Well, there you go. Whether, but remember when we went over into Iraq, it was, well, they have Sharia law and they hate our freedoms. But we've got to bring democracy over there to, to get them to, I guess, like us. And we're going to be greeted like liberators. It's always the same, whether you're in Russia or the U.S., or I'm sure, in China, they have very interesting justifications, I'm sure, for what they're doing.
Well, we kind of started the show like that. It's the playbook, right? It's already been written. It's followed everywhere you go where a government's doing something nefarious, right? That's what they do.
Yeah, an endless series of hobgoblins, all created by the government itself to keep their populations in a constant state of fear so that they can do whatever the hell they want to.
Well, and it's always about shifting the paradigm, like we're if you question them, it's like we were always at war with Eurasia, and then you turn around for a second and then it's like we were always at war with Oceania. And so it's that bait and switch, to keep the population in a state of dazed and confused that really helps them push everything forward as well.
Who's the boogeyman this week?
Yep.
Yeah, and to me, I'm going to call it the propaganda is very apparent, and some internet memes have helped point this out to me, and that is we've seen recently a whole bunch of blue and gold flags pop up on people's social media profiles. They're changing their picture to blue and gold, and
I've seen it manifest in reality, like where people put blue and gold flags on their flag posts.
Right now, how many Yemenis flags have you seen?
Well, I'm in libertarian circles, so I actually see a lot of them.
Okay, but has it been? And the conflicts in Yemen have been going on far longer than Ukraine, but no common folks, unlibertarians, if you will, have changed their profile pictures to the colors of the Yemen flag and that kind of a thing.
Because the media hasn't told you to care.
Don't you guys know if they're not European, they don't count? Ethiopia or Yemen, or when the Paris attacks happened, 150 people died, and it was very sad. But you know where else that same day 150 people died? In Lebanon, at a soccer stadium.
Well, it's more than just a race thing. It's also a money thing. I mean, if you look at the deals that Joe Biden has had in Ukraine, it's very clear why they're wanting to prioritize this. And then on the flip side, if you look at all of the Saudi Arabian deals that we have, and the fact that Saudi Arabia is engaging in a genocide in Yemen, it's very clear that we're trying to protect the people that toast or that bread or butter, or that butter or bread.
Trump was open. I think I've never heard a president so openly say. He said, "Well, Khashoggi, kind of sad, but we're making so much money with Saudi Arabia. We're not going to do anything about that."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no. Yeah. Trump feeds into this stuff too. It's not like he's this God Messiah savior like figure.
Yeah. What? He's not?
Every president since I've been alive has engaged.
QAnon told me something totally different.
Yeah. Every president since I've been alive has engaged in war, and since before I was born, they have engaged in war. Hey, Greg, thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate you. So, war is ugly. War is something that would not exist without something known as a central bank.
War is the health of the state.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. And so the fact that they're borrowing money to wage these wars that no one that I know asked for or wants.
Are they really borrowing it, though?
Well, that's...
Is there ever an intent to pay it back?
There is an intent to conscript future generations to pay.
Okay.
Maybe not pay it back fully, right? I don't think that that's even possible at this point.
That's what I'm saying.
But the intent, of course, is to keep or to prevent people from seeing the actual bill, right?
Sure.
Because if they came to everybody with the actual bill divided evenly amongst the number of, quote, citizens, unquote, you'd look at that bill, you'd be like, no, this stops now. There'd be a revolution tomorrow, right?
Even if it was a progressive bill, meaning that it was done on the basis of income levels, the very, very wealthy still wouldn't be able to pay it. I mean, if you look at at the annual returns of these companies, they don't even make close to that amount.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It, like, mathematically speaking, not only is we'll call it the national debt, because we're speaking about the United States, but it's not just the United States. Other countries around the world have adopted the same policies and procedures, where they have a central bank, they borrow from that central bank to finance their own wars, right? It's a repeatable model for governments, and it requires the people who live in the geographic areas known as countries, it requires them to be enslaved, including here. Whether, people are, we're not slaves. Yes, we are. We are slaves to the tax system.
Which is also dumb because they print it anyway.
Yeah.
The tax system isn't about getting the money. It's about keeping the control.
Correct. Keeping you poor, taking from you your life effort. Right? Now, overt slavery, right, chattel slavery, was taking 100% of a person's life effort. Well, at what percentage is it no longer slavery? Right? If I'm taxed at 30%, am I 30% a slave? Yes, I am.
At 0%, it is not slavery.
Correct. And that is the answer. And what does 0% slavery mean? It means the abolishment of the organization type known as government.
And I'm personally a voluntarist. If there are people that have this weird kink where they like to be dominated by government, by all means, I don't want to get in the way of stopping them from doing that. Just don't get me involved in your kink. I think it's gross and weird.
Yeah, like in a completely voluntary organization, something like that could exist, but it would all be voluntary.
Right.
Right? And so no forcing of anybody to participate. And if somebody got into it and decided they wanted to get out, there'd be an easy way to do that. They just stop paying. That's all we have for this evening. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thank you, Zephin, for co-hosting tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Richie Rich. Peace.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com.